The year was 1948, a pivotal, tumultuous moment in the history of the Middle East. That year marked the eruption of one of the most defining conflicts of the 20th century, the First Arab-Israeli War, commonly known as the 1948 Palestine War. This war irrevocably shaped not only the history of the region, but also the geopolitical landscape that continues to influence the present day. To fully understand the significance of the 1948 Palestine War, we must first go back in time to explore the context and the forces that set the stage for conflict. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, conflicting ideologies took hold in Palestine. On one hand, the land was home to a predominantly Arab population that had lived there for centuries, Muslims, Christians, and Jews alike. On the other hand, by the late 1800s, the Zionist movement emerged in Europe, advocating for the establishment of a Jewish homeland in Palestine, a region deeply connected to Jewish history. These tensions escalated after World War I, when the Ottoman Empire dissolved and Palestine came under British control via the League of Nations Mandate. Early British policies, including the 1917 Balfour Declaration, contributed to growing friction. The declaration supported the establishment of a Jewish national home in Palestine, while vaguely promising protection of the rights of its Arab inhabitants. The ambiguity fueled years of unrest as Jewish immigration increased under British rule, and Palestinian Arabs became increasingly fearful of displacement. In 1947, as the British Mandate neared its end, tensions escalated beyond repair. The United Nations stepped in with what became known as UN Resolution 181, proposing the partition of Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states with Jerusalem under international administration. The plan was met with celebration by Zionists, but rejection by Arab leaders, who deemed it unjust and unrepresentative of the majority Arab population. By May 14, 1948, the political landscape reached a breaking point. On that day, the Jewish leadership, led by David Ben-Gurion, declared the establishment of the State of Israel. The Arab response was swift and united. Within hours, neighboring Arab nations, Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon, sent their armies across the borders of Palestine, launching the First Arab-Israeli War. The First Arab-Israeli War began, marking a significant and defining conflict that would shape the region's future. The war unfolded over several critical phases, each marked by key battles, significant maneuvers, and shifting dynamics. Initially, the conflict was between Jewish and Arab militias in the region, erupting into violence in towns and cities. This phase saw hostilities in locales such as Jaffa, Haifa, and Jerusalem as both sides vied for control. Then came May 15, 1948, when the armies of the neighboring Arab nations formally invaded the newly declared Israeli state. The Arab League countries aimed to prevent the establishment of a Jewish state and support Palestinian Arabs in maintaining sovereignty over the land. Egypt's army advanced from the south, while Jordan's Arab Legion, arguably the most disciplined force, moved through the central region, capturing East Jerusalem and the West Bank. Iraqi forces were stationed in northern Palestine, while Syrian and Lebanese troops initiated attacks in the north. Despite its questionable odds, the Israeli forces proved remarkably resilient and adaptive under extreme pressure. The newly formed Israel Defense Forces, composed of ex-militants and irregulars, launched counteroffensives that turned the tide of the war. Strategic planning, internal unity, and the influx of weapons from Czechoslovakia dramatically bolstered their efforts. The series of battles that followed were bloody and relentless. Among the most notable was the Battle of Latrun, where Jordanian and Israeli forces clashed over control of key supply routes to Jerusalem. Ultimately, Jordan prevailed in retaining East Jerusalem, but Israel ensured supply lines to West Jerusalem remained intact. Another critical moment came with the Operation Dani campaign targeting central Palestine. Through the battles of Lydda and Ramli, Israeli forces secured key territories that would ultimately fall within the boundaries of Israel proper. These regions were depopulated during the fighting, with many Palestinian residents fleeing or being displaced, an episode emblematic of the broader humanitarian crisis sparked by the war. By July 1948, the first ceasefire brokered by the United Nations came into effect. though hostilities resumed thereafter. Each side used the quiet to reorganize militarily, and Israel escalated its maneuvers through a series of offensives later that year. Operations Dekel and Hiram saw Israeli forces gain control of the Galilee region and other strategic territories, effectively ending the presence of Arab armies in northern Palestine. The Galilee region, now under Israeli control, marks the end of Arab military presence in northern Palestine. The conclusion of active fighting came with several armistice agreements signed between Israel and neighboring Arab states in early 1949. Egypt, Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon all signed ceasefires, establishing temporary borders that largely followed the lines secured by Israeli forces during the war. These borders added up to what became known as the Green Line. While the military chapters of the war close with the armistice agreements, their political and humanitarian reverberations persist to this day. The war resulted in the displacement of over 700,000 Palestinian Arabs, creating one of the most enduring refugee crises in human history. Villages were emptied, homes were abandoned, and countless lives were uprooted. For Palestinians, this event became known as the Nakba, or Catastrophe, symbolizing the loss of land, identity, and dreams of self-determination. Israel, for its part, emerged from the conflict as a newly established and fortified nation-state, but one born into immediate and prolonged enmity with its neighbors. Fears of existential threats, coupled with post-war resilience, became deeply ingrained in the national consciousness. The 1948 Palestine War was not only military but deeply political, with far-reaching consequences wielded by the international community. Nations such as the United States and the Soviet Union quickly aligned themselves with Israel, while Arab states garnered support from fellow nations sympathetic to the Palestinian cause. In the decades that followed, the events of 1948 have influenced every aspect of the Arab-Israeli conflict. The war set the foundation for civil unrest, geopolitical division, and decades of negotiations, uprisings, and warfare. The question of Palestine remains unresolved, marked by continued conflict, strained peace efforts, and fierce debates over land, rights, and identity. Meanwhile, the very borders drawn in the aftermath of the 1948 war remain contested to this day, living evidence of a conflict born in fire and sustained by the complexities of history. As history continues to unfold, the scars of 1948 endure as a somber reminder of humanity's challenges in forging mutual understanding amidst conflict. For the millions who lived through it, and those still shaped by its legacy, the war remains a profound chapter in the ongoing story of Palestine and Israel.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel.